Hi, humans and non-human sentient beings who may be watching. Here's one of my favorite quotes from Master Dogen. Although we study the words of the ancient that the whole universe in 10 directions is one eye, the whole of the 10 directions is just one eye. And furthermore, there are thousands of eyes on the tips of the fingers. There are thousands of eyes of right dharma. There are thousands of eyes in the ears. There are thousands of eyes on the tip of the tongue. There are thousands of eyes on the tip of the mind. There are thousands of eyes of the thoroughly realized mind. There are thousands of eyes of the thoroughly realized body. There are thousands of eyes on the top of a stick. There are thousands of eyes in the moment before the body. There are thousands of eyes in the moment before the mind. There are thousands of eyes of death in death. There are thousands of eyes of liveliness in liveliness. There are thousands of eyes of the self. There are thousands of eyes of the external world. There are thousands of eyes in the concrete place of eyes. There are thousands of eyes of learning and practice. There are thousands of eyes aligned vertically, and there are thousands of eyes aligned horizontally. Thus, we study that the totality of eyes is the whole universe, but still, this is not the physical mastery of the eyes. Whoa. That's a weird quote. And when I put that up on Twitter the other day, one of the responses said, "Although I like Dogen, I run into these types of quotes and do not understand them. What exactly is Dogen trying to say here? Is there not a better way to communicate whatever that message may be?" Yeah, I can understand that reaction, because when I first came across these quotes by Dogen, that's what I thought of him. I thought, oh, that's pretty poetry, but I don't know what the hell he's talking about. But I'd like to introduce two other quotes from Dogen that I think express somewhat similar ideas. There are worlds of sentient beings in clouds. There are worlds of sentient beings in wind. There are worlds of sentient beings in fire. There are worlds of sentient beings in earth. There are worlds of sentient beings in the world of Dharma. There are worlds of sentient beings in a stalk of grass. There are worlds of sentient beings in a staff. Wherever there are worlds of sentient beings, the world of Buddhist patriarchs inevitably exists at that place. That's from the Mountains and Rivers Sutra, Sansui Gyo. That's chapter 14 of Shobogenzo. Here's another one. This one comes from chapter 22 called Busho, which means Buddha nature. These words, all living beings, should be investigated at once. The actions, ways, circumstances, and personalities of all living beings are not only one, and their views are miscellaneous. Common people, non-Buddhists, the 3 vehicles, the 5 vehicles, and so on may be concrete individuals. The meaning of all living beings, as described now in Buddhism, is that all those who have mind are living beings, for minds are just living beings. Those without minds may also be living beings, for living beings are just mind. So minds are all living beings, and living beings all have the Buddha nature. Grass, trees, and national lands are mind itself. Because they are mind, they are living beings, and because they are living beings, they have the Buddha nature. The sun, the moon, and the stars are mind itself. Because they are mind, they are living beings, and because they are living beings, they have Buddha nature. This is crazy stuff. This is really weird stuff. I think, to answer my Twitter guy's question, that Dogen means exactly what he's saying. I don't think he's intentionally trying to befuddle us with poetry. He's not trying to cast these pretty words out there because they're pretty words. He is trying to say something concrete, and that thing he's trying to say is that the universe is alive, that everything in the universe is a manifestation of life. So we normally tend to think that life is an anomaly, that we being living things are anomalous. Like, for example, just take this room, for example. The only conventional living things in this room are me and a bunch of spiders and maybe some of those creepy crawly centipede things. I see those sometimes too, and fruit flies, because I got a bunch of those. But we wouldn't think of the rest of the room as being alive. We wouldn't think of the bookshelf or the books in it as being alive, or the walls, the fences, walls, tiles, and pebbles of which this room is made of, or the grasses and trees and stones, as Dogen relates, outside as being alive. We're the anomalous live things that are on top of those other non-live things. And conventionally, we say that, for example, life exists on planet Earth, but we have found no evidence of life elsewhere. We don't find, those creepy tentacly things on the moon like people thought a century or more ago might exist there. There's nothing like us on the moon. There's nothing like us on Mars. There doesn't seem to be on Venus. There may be microbes and things on those planets, but there's certainly nothing, walking around. So we say there's no life there, or potentially no life there, other than microbes, which would be life. But anyway, we think of things as being generally dead and us as alive. Dogen doesn't see it that way. And I think Dogen is trying to be literal, in the sense that teenagers use the word literally. He's saying literally true. Well, maybe not the sense, because teenagers tend to use literally true as meaning not literally true, but he means it's literally true. And this is the feeling and the sense that I think most of us acquire after doing Zazen practice for a few years. You have to do it for a few years before you get to this point. But I think almost everybody who does it for enough years will suddenly, or sometimes not so suddenly, go, whoa, he's right. There are thousands of eyes on the tip of a finger and all this stuff. And so I think by eyes, he means points of awareness. So points of awareness or points of experience. The whole universe in the 10 directions means everywhere. 10 directions just means everywhere. And I don't think we need to go into too much of the arcane linguistic stuff that's in there, although admittedly there is some. You can read these and think, well, there must be some metaphor I'm missing, and there probably are, and there are probably metaphors I'm missing, even though I've studied it for quite a while. But I think those are a small part of the message. The overall thrust of the message is one you can get without even understanding the metaphors, the allusions, the literary allusions and the references to old koans and things that exist in a lot of Dogen's writings. You don't need to know those to understand the overall thrust of the thing, which is everything is alive. And it's statements like this that lead me to describe Dogen as being a mystic. He-Jing Kim calls him a mystical realist, and I think that's a good word for him. Somebody was asking me why I call Dogen a mystic, or say that he talks in mystical terms, and these quotes are some of the reasons. And that's it. I just thought I'd share that with you folks out there, and maybe we can have a discussion about it. It'd be far more interesting for me to discuss this than to discuss politics, and why I don't like to talk about politics, and how I'm a terrible person for not shouting about politics. So if you want to talk about that, we can, and I'll answer the comments, and I'll do my best. I'll read them all. I won't answer them all, but I'll read them all. And thank you. And my new book comes out in October, Letters to a Dead Friend About Zen. I will be doing talks about it in the Angel City Zen Center, not tomorrow, Monday. Somebody else is speaking then. I've forgotten who. And I don't know when I'm going to be doing it again, but check ACZC, just like ACDC, but ACZC or ACZC if you're English, British. Canadians, I think, say that too, right? But anyway, check that out for information about when I'll be speaking. More chapters of that. My PayPal and Patreon links are below. That's how I make my money. You've heard it all before. So thank you for your donations. Really appreciate it. See you later. Bye.